Well, guys, the Bench Buddies are back with my Week 4 NFL Power Rankings. And look at that bottom there. The Panthers and the Colts are moving up 11 spots as my biggest movers of the week, while the Texans fall 8 spots. Let's get into it here. 29 through 32. Saints, Titans, Giants expected to be here. The Dolphins, probably not. 0-3 start, lose on Thursday Night Football to the Bills. They get the Jets this week, another 0-3 team. So one of those teams has to win this game. The Giants making the switch to Jackson Dart this week after starting 0-3. You get the Chargers, so we'll see how he plays. The Titans and Cam Ward, honestly, the offense doesn't look too bad. Cam Ward's doing his part, that's for sure. But it's just together as a team, this Titans team just doesn't look like they have it right now. And then the Saints, well, the defense honestly hasn't looked too bad, but the offense just can't keep up with these high-scoring teams that are coming in. And oh yeah, you go to Buffalo this week to face one of the best offenses in the NFL. 25 through 28, you find your two other 0-3 teams here with the Texans and the Jets. Jets lose a heartbreaker. Unfortunately, it just didn't go their way after blocking that field goal for a touchdown. Like I said, they get the Dolphins this week in a must-win for both those teams. Texans, somehow, some way, they face the 0-3 Titans as well, so one of those teams has to win. So hopefully there's not going to be as many 0-4 teams in the NFL. And then the Falcons, I thought this team was going to be okay. Go into Carolina, win that game. Not only did they lose, they didn't even score against a Panthers team, and they gave up 30. We saw Kirk Cousins come in, not because of an injury, because of Penix just being safe at the end of the game. And they get the Commanders this week, which that's always a tough one because, Jaden Daniels and company obviously love to throw that ball around. And I'd be very, very scared if I'm a Falcons fan for their future for the rest of this year. Same for the Raiders because they just did not show up in this one against those Commanders. Bears this week at home feels like a game that Pete Carroll can't let slip away because, they're in the AFC West, one of the toughest divisions in the NFL. And, you're already, if they lose this game 1-3 with all those divisional games left, yeah, it's going to be a tough hole to climb out of. 21 through 24, the Browns move up 5 spots after beating my Packers at home. It was a great game for the Browns standpoint in that fourth quarter. Nothing through the first three. And then the last 6 minutes of the game, the Browns just did everything right to walk away with that victory. Are they going to have that same luck as they travel to Detroit this week? The Cowboys lose the Bears. This defense is probably one of the worst, if not the worst, in the NFL. Mike Parsons covered up a lot of those holes that defense had. But the offense looks okay. But now they lose CD for who knows 2 to 4 weeks because of that high ankle sprain. So it's just getting bad to worse for those Cowboys fans. And Micah Parsons returns home here in Week 4 against those Packers. Patriots lose to the Steelers in a game that I feel like they should have won, honestly. They only lose by 7, but it just nothing went right for them. Losing multiple fumbles, multiple interceptions by Drake May, drive stalling, going for it on your own 20-yard line, 4th and 1. It just nothing went right for the Patriots, and they somehow almost won this game. I expect them to get right against the Panthers this week. And same for the Bears. The Bears, maybe they can take that momentum from the Cowboys win and take it to Vegas and get back to 500 after a great showing by Caleb Williams. 17 through 20. Panthers move up 11 spots, like I said, with that dominant victory over the Falcons because I just think they're playing better, at least 1 week better than all those teams we've already listed. And they get the Patriots. If they go into New England, who's to say this Carolina Panthers team isn't a top 16 team in the league when they're 2-2? Same goes for the Jaguars. If they can beat the Niners on the road, Jaguars instantly go into my top 10 after what they have done so far this year. Bengals, yep, they're back to, unfortunately, the bottom half of the league, losing not only by 38, but doing nothing on offense with all those weapons is a big concern moving forward. And you get an even tougher defense in the Broncos on the road. So tough sledding here for the Bengals as they look to get right this week. And those Broncos, like I said, lose a heartbreaker on the road in LA to the Chargers as they fall to 1-2. And the Broncos got to win this game this week because, like I said, just like the Raiders, they can't fall behind in that AFC West because obviously the Chargers are 3-0 and the Chiefs are 1-2 as well. So the Broncos got to keep it moving and keep up with those Chargers at this point. 13 through 16, you find the Steelers move down a spot. Like I said, an ugly win for them, but a win is a win, and they fall just because the Vikings played a little better. Like I said, 38-point victory, and those two teams face each other this week in a big game to see who can get to 3-1 and who's going to unfortunately fall back to 500. Commanders and Cardinals. Commanders do everything right. And then Mariota has a great game, which is awesome to see as they did whatever they wanted against the Raiders. They get the Falcons on the road. Cardinals, like I said, tough loss for the Cardinals on the road as it just didn't work out for them. Game-winning field goal by Eddie Pinheiro, and the Niners escape at home against the Cardinals. And that was a game I feel like the Cardinals just could have won. And a lot of people would have taken more notice of this Cardinals team, probably a top five team in the NFL if they were to win that game. But if they can beat the Seahawks here at home, go to 3-1 in that NFC West, I think a lot more people are going to start to take the Cardinals pretty seriously after a month of football. 9 through 12. And those Seahawks move up one spot after demolishing the Saints at home. They get the Cardinals on Thursday night. Huge game, not only for NFC West purposes, but for, getting 3-1 purposes. Chiefs, Ravens, 10 and 11. Chiefs get their first win of the year. Ravens lose a heartbreaker on Monday Night Football, and those two teams play each other. One of those teams is going to be 1-3 to start the year, and I don't think anybody would have predicted that unless you're rivals of those teams and you just don't want to them to succeed. But Lamar versus Mahomes in pretty much a playoff game feeling because you can't follow the 1-3 at this point in the season. Lions at 9, beat those Ravens on the road, and I'm back in on the Lions. Here we go again. It doesn't matter. They got rid of the coordinators. It's a Dan Campbell thing. This team is clicking on all cylinders, and they welcome to the Browns. The Browns in town after beating the Packers, and could be a huge win there for those Lions. And then 5 through 8. You get my Packers at 8, falling from 3 to 8 because they're lost to the Browns, and they are still ahead of the Lions because they did beat the Lions. The Rams at 7, I feel like I couldn't move them down because they had this game won almost twice, but two blocked field goals unfortunately does not do them justice as they get the Colts this week in a huge game, which going in week 4, I don't think too many people would have expected this to be a 2-1 versus 3-0 game. And those Colts, after beating all odds, I said give them one more week. If they can go in there and beat the Titans, they're in my top 10. Not only are they top 10, they're a top 6 team as they come to 6. And if they beat the Rams, no doubt in my mind that they're definitely going to be in the top 5 next week. And starting my top 5, I got the Niners squeaking out a win against the Cardinals. It wasn't pretty, but Mac Jones got it done. Brock Purdy is expected to play this week against the Jaguars. That's another matchup that I think a lot of people are surprised that the Jaguars are 2-1 and the Niners are 3-0, and all eyes are going to be on that game here as Brock Purdy returns. And, maybe we'll see some healthy 49ers get back here. Juwan Jennings hopefully can play in this one and give them more depth in the wide receiver room. Then 1 through 4, I don't think you're too surprised here to find your other 3-0 teams here. Bucks at 4, escaping a Jets surge late in the fourth, but they get it done when they have to with a game-winning field goal. And they get the Eagles this week. And, 1 versus 4, Eagles escape the Rams and jump into 1. We'll talk about those Eagles. They didn't have to throw the ball until they had to, and it shows that this Eagles team is probably one of the most, if not the most, balanced teams in the NFL because they try to run it every single time for the first quarter, second quarter, really get you in the run and then open it up. But they were forced to throw because they were down early. They did that. They came storming all the way back and eventually won this game. And then the Bills there at 2 did what they had to do on Thursday night to get that win, face the Saints. Nothing really new there for the Bills to report. Chargers at 3. Now, here's a team, call me Chris Collinsworth. Somehow, some way, they already have beat their AFC West opponents, all of them. They beat all 3 of them, Chiefs, Raiders, and Broncos in the first 3 weeks. And I don't think if you're a Chargers fan, there's no better start than that. Not only did you start 3-0, but you beat all your divisional opponents. And Herbert has looked good in all of them. The only bad news for them is they lose Najee for the year. But Omarion Hampton looks like he played well in this one, and maybe that's what Hampton needs. Not Harris to get hurt, but a real chance to be the RB1 moving forward. And if he succeeds, this Chargers team with a consistent run game, because we know Jim Harbaugh and how he likes to run his offenses, this Chargers team could be very, very good and scary as we enter those late months of the season. But that's going to be it for my Week 4 power rankings. Check back next week to see where your favorite team ranks. Till then, we're out.